Welcome to Tech Talks. I'm Holly Scott. Today, as my guest, I am pleased to have Jonathan Woodward, the Chief Technology Officer of Corvista Health. Corvista is an innovative organization that has developed a platform, a digital health platform, that has a unique ability to streamline the diagnosis of cardiovascular disease and with a non-invasive solution. Jonathan, thank you for joining today.
You're welcome, Holly. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. I'd love to start with the big question here. What brought you, with your esteemed background, to Corvista? What attracted you to the organization and to what we're looking to get done?
So there were a couple of things. One was just the technology of machine learning, signal processing, and the ability, the capability that the team had. That was sort of one. The second main one was the executive team and the leadership team. So very solid background, proven track record in delivering medical products to the market, and then also being successful with the launch and long-term prospects of those products.
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk about digital health and digital health solutions and the intersection of healthcare, technology, medical devices, what this all means. So it could be interesting, but I assume it has some challenges. So maybe we'll start with what is that core problem that we're looking to solve with Corvista's platform?
So our core problem is that we're solving is diagnosing heart function and heart diseases non-invasively, and also with accessibility to the wider areas. So things like being able to do diagnostic testing pretty much anywhere where there's a clinical environment.
Yeah, it's fascinating because the current standard of care, if you're getting a cardiovascular workup, can involve stress tests, it can involve drug-induced stressors, it can involve radiation. There's a litany of procedures that are not only time but intensive on the body. This is fascinating. How are these signals that we're collecting with this device different?
So there's a couple of things. So the first one is non-invasively. So essentially we have a 3.5-minute signal acquisition. So the clinician will apply the sensor to the patient, the ECG and the hemodynamic sensor, and then we'll collect the signal from that 3.5 minutes. And that signal in the collection piece or device is really agnostic of the disease. And so that's one important thing of our platform is we have one hardware capture device that collects the signal, and that really then sends that to the cloud and the back-end processing algorithms and systems to then compute the diagnostic results. So compared to, say, a scan or a nuclear stress test, they provide a lot of extra cost, a lot of extra, stress for the patient, and also risk. So if you can do something non-invasively, something that's portable, it provides a huge advantage to the patient and also the whole medical community.
Mm-hmm. And let's not underestimate time too, right? If we can, what does this test run, about 10 minutes?
Yeah, so I think, with the prepping of the patient with electrodes, about maybe 5 minutes. And then once that data is collected, we do signal checks, we send it to the cloud, check the validity of the signal, and then it's really a 15-minute process of all the algorithms computing the diagnostic report. Mm-hmm. And so the scenario is a patient comes into the clinic, with, say, chest pain or symptoms. They can then very quickly, within a few minutes, send the person to have the Corvista test. And then within about 30 minutes, from start to end, they can know the diagnostic results. And so that'll help guide the next treatment, the treatment plan for the patient, but also, reduce stress with not having to wait or, be scheduled or travel somewhere else to do that more invasive diagnostic test. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the idea of democratizing healthcare and having accessibility to tests like this for everyone, not just those who are fortunate to live by a world-class medical facility or a city hospital or something. That's fascinating, and it's got a tremendous potential. Is it something that can be administered by an aide, a nurse practitioner? Does it have to be a cardiovascular physician? What is who reads the test? Who administers it and who reads it?
Yeah, so it's really the nurse practitioner could collect the signal from the patient, and then it's really the cardiologist or the specialist who's going to interpret the report. Mm-hmm. So they can look at the report, they can see based on the diagnostics of being positive for coronary artery disease or negative, and then also see in that report where that patient fit within all the patient population that we've done our validation on. And so that gives them better confidence. They can also see some of the signals, so they can trust the input that's going into the algorithm.
Fascinating. This world of evolution around software within a medical device, software as a medical device is look, it's evolving real time. And you had some of this experience prior to coming to Corvista. What do you see as someone who's seen both? You've seen traditional devices, you've seen traditional tech devices, medical devices, and now software. This is classified as software as a medical device, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
So what makes this unique? What makes this from an engineering and product development perspective a challenge?
So from the the definition of a software medical device is having your main function of your medical device running on a computing platform that's not directly specific to a hardware platform. And so you can still have hardware parts of the system, but it's really agnostic to the hardware environment it's running on. Mm-hmm. And so one of the big advantages we're leveraging is the growth in the whole cloud computing technology, and also the machine learning technology as well. So trying to leverage the new technology and services available to enable some of these solutions.
As the product evolved and service, since there's that software component, were there challenges along the way? I'm curious about that user experience, because I know, being in med tech for so long, the best ideas, the most innovative ideas can often be incredibly daunting to a clinician who's been doing something the same way for many, many years and many procedures. Curious on how that user experience path has gone.
Yep. So I think one thing that's unique with Corvista is we really started with a focus on the whole clinical use case and the clinical environment. And so one unique part which I did love about Corvista when I joined is we've collected all of our clinical data ourselves. So over the last 5-6 years, we've collected over 10,000 signals from 35 different clinical sites around the US and some offshore. And so the ability to control all that clinical data collection, but also get that feedback from the clinical team on how to use the device, and sort of those suggestions on how would they trust the device, and also mitigating mistakes and risks. And so that's one thing that we focused on, both with our clinical studies, but also our human factors, and also on the cloud side, which is the portal environment and the reporting.
Was that challenging, weaving in the technological aspect of the software side and this traditional medical device focus, which the company had early? They came in with a plan of, we're going to clinically validate this early as an FDA approved story. Was that difficult to rein in from a software perspective? Because look, software, and especially engineering, right? Software engineers can go to tech companies and change an app every 6 months, right? This is a different play when we're interfacing with the FDA. What was that like, or what has that been like?
Yeah, so one thing that's different, which I found with Corvista, is we really took a different approach. A lot of traditional health tech startups, they start with the research, developing the software without having, any of the quality system or the regulatory controls you need on the whole development. And so we took a different approach where from the very start, we integrated our quality system, and also by using that to drive the development, we also ensured that we would have a smooth path for when we're getting there to commercialization and then also scaling up. And so a lot of, some of my experiences from other companies that I've been involved in the past, where you develop a product, you don't, have a functioning quality system, and really you're scrambling at the end to meet all the regulations, and that really just adds risk, which is not really acceptable to the patient. So we took a different approach, and that's one thing I liked. One of the struggles a lot of health tech companies have is really understanding what the needs are from the regulations, but also what the FDA needs, and especially in this area, software medical devices, where it's evolving very fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even the cloud itself changes, right? So keeping lockstep with AWS updates and all of the infrastructure back end changes that have to evolve. So that in itself is an enormous endeavor. And you're right, it is unique to see the dedication and commitment to the clinical and regulatory story early. And it can be, I have seen it, unfortunately, bite companies when they think about it too late in the game, because playing cleanup on those areas, when you go in thinking, oh, it's a non-invasive technology, it's informational, it has caused no harm, we shouldn't have to spend a lot on clinicals to validate safety concerns. Well, it's a lot more than that we have to think about. So that's pretty interesting. And things, so sensors and issues associated with updates, are those an ongoing endeavor for the organization, and just making sure that everything is current and harmonizing with the end results?
Definitely. So there's multiple areas of that. One is, one of the more key aspects which updates more regularly is the whole security aspect. Mm-hmm. And so, a lot of companies don't put that effort in at the start to address all the security risks, put all the infrastructure in place. And one advantage we had when we took this clinical approach, we essentially had to create, spend a few years creating this base foundation processing platform that we used for our clinical studies. So by developing that in at the start, gave us two things. One is it gave us very consistent ways of collecting the clinical data and processing it. The second one is we had already put the effort in for assessing the quality characteristics we needed for our signals. And so, all the signals we've collected, are valid, and, we're confident in their use. One of the problems with machine learning is when you don't have clean data. If you have a third-party data source, you don't really know the devices and the issues those devices may have had. Mm. And so by controlling, beginning to end, both from the sensing platform to the transmission platform to the cloud, the storage, computing, and reporting platform. So it's all contributed to that success.
It's fascinating, and as the organization continues to move forward with clinical front and center, that becomes the clinical loop becomes your product iteration, right? So product and clinical go hand in hand to make the company more and more valuable based on the data itself, based on the continued input and the continued effort there. It does drive the marketplace value and perception there too, as we continue to grow in that state.
Yep. The more clinical subjects you have, the more understanding of all the variability and the corner cases that you're going to find. Mm-hmm. And that's maybe sometimes limiting in some products, where if you have a small number of subjects, as soon as you go commercial, you're going to find some subjects which you haven't seen before with certain physiological characteristics, which may, in turn affect the performance of your product. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the idea being, again, with my layman knowledge, is we're looking to flag abnormalities as quickly as possible. And if we can do so in minutes versus hours or days, and then move forward on further inspection, that's a win.
Yeah,
That's a
definitely.
win.
That definitely early detection. Definitely. It's been proven to, have positive outcomes for the patient. The earlier they can detect, and by making it more convenient and easier to do, that's going to really expand the number of tests and then the early detection of some of these diseases, heart diseases. The other part is some of these, say, pulmonary hypertension, are very hard to diagnose. And so what you find is by the time they diagnose the problem or the disease, it's really, the intervention is already, reduced because they've progressed so far.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we're working on is how do we detect it the earliest we can, and then as our product evolves, we'll look at expanding the capabilities of monitoring that disease as the patient continues its progress.
So that's exciting. So we have other indications, other diseases that we can look at with the platform itself.
Correct. So our initial focus is coronary artery disease. Main reason for that is the leading heart disease challenge that the US and the world faces. But we also are leveraging the same technology, the same foundation, working with the clinical community and sort of understanding which one of those to tackle first. And so coronary artery disease is our first product. We currently started our review by the FDA on that product very recently. And then we've also got algorithms for heart function, looking at LVDP, and then also pulmonary hypertension. And we've got some more planned, but first waiting to get on the market first for this initial CAD product.
Well, you've got some giant market opportunities there, to say the least, with each of those. And it is exciting to the pulmonary hypertension space in particular, because there aren't many good solutions out there at all for that. CAD's been one that people have paid attention to for many years, being the #1 killer in the world for so many decades, right? But we have more than that, which is exciting, Yeah. So if we zoom out here, artificial intelligence, machine learning, you're deep in it. We're using our superhero powers for good, not evil, right? What do you see in terms of the medical landscape? What are opportunities looking like for you, big picture? What are you excited about?
Yeah, I think things we're excited about is some of the changing regulatory landscape. It's taken a while. These machine learning platforms are very complicated, and so it has been a challenge for the FDA, understanding and getting up to speed with the fast change in technology. And so the FDA has done a great job in the last few years in trying to harmonize some of those good machine learning practices. And sort of where things are going is getting to the point where we can move away from just static algorithms that are you essentially, a static algorithm is you create your algorithm, you validate it, you get your FDA clearance, and then if you want to then alter that algorithm, you've got to start that whole process again. So the FDA are now working through early stages of some of these programs where you can, if you prove to the FDA that you are, you have a robust quality system, the way how you develop your products, you can tune your algorithm without having to go back to the FDA for an extensive review. So, some of those things we're very excited about. And then also, some of the sensor technologies. So currently we have two main physiological sensors in our product. We have an ECG side, and then we have a photoplethysmograph side on the hemodynamics. And then we're also doing some research and work on adding other sensors. And so by having other inputs into the whole solution, it just gives you much better capability of improving that performance and really understanding that physiological the physiological side and how that translates through to the signal side.
Interesting, which could, again, broaden our opportunity in looking and identifying other diseases and other individuals who need intervention for various reasons. Wow.
Correct, yep.
The software as a medical device classification that we're working towards with FDA, that's one piece of it. In terms of commercial strategy, is this suggested to be a subscription model, or what are we thinking about?
So that is one unique thing of our product. So we've taken a different approach. So instead of a traditional medical device where you sell your device and then charge services to the hospital, we've really gone down the path of creating our own entity as a business service entity, which actually will provide that product and services at no capital expenditure to the hospital.
So keeping that user experience front and center and eliminating any friction points and keeping it as seamless and as efficient as possible. That's definitely a unique quality that you're thinking about that so early. Sometimes that's quite often, and even traditional medical devices, we don't know until we know, so now that's a great point.
And I have been a lot of, one of my early startups was remote patient monitoring, and that was always the biggest barrier. Is the clinicians and the doctors wanted the product, but it just hadn't been proven. And obviously with COVID now, it's very proven for remote patient monitoring. But 5-8 years ago, you really had to convince that they were going to get a good return on investment. And so that barrier is reduced by us, taking on all those costs and really just wanting to provide value to the hospital and then also value to the patient.
That's what it comes back to is true value, in the care sense as well as the time and resources perspective.
And also not the whole infrastructure the hospitals need. So, a lot of community hospitals don't have the large equipment and specialized testing facility that, say, a large central hospital in the city has. And so it really enables them to expand what services they offer to the patient. And, a lot of patients don't want to leave their community. It just makes it a whole lot hassle-free, and also, keeps them working with the medical team that they've been working with, locally.
Exactly, where they're familiar and get the support that they can through the Core Vista team.
Correct.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, Jonathan, thank you. Thank you for joining us on Tech Talks today. This has been great and giving us a glimpse and for our audience a glimpse of what digital health in the cardiovascular world can mean and beyond, and how important this solution can be to the market. We appreciate it. See you next time on TED Talks.